Ambassador Sarah Chun stood before the massive crystalline structure that housed the Galactic Council's Supreme Chamber, her hands trembling with barely contained rage. The morning sun of Nexus Prime cast rainbow patterns through the building's bioluminescent walls, but Sarah saw none of its beauty. All she could think about were the empty beds back on Earth, the crying parents, and the 847 human children who had vanished in the night. The Galactic Council had existed for over 50,000 years, a supposed beacon of peace and cooperation among the stars. When humanity first made contact with the Council 15 years ago, Earth's leaders had been overwhelmed with joy. Finally, proof that they were not alone in the universe. Finally, a chance to join a community of advanced civilizations that had supposedly transcended war, hunger, and suffering. How naive they had been. Sarah's security detail, a mix of human marines and Council-approved peacekeepers, flanked her as she walked through the gleaming corridors. The walls pulsed with soft, bioluminescent patterns, a technology that the Zephyrians had gifted to the Council centuries ago. Everything here was designed to inspire awe and submission. The high ceilings, the flowing architecture, the gentle music that seemed to emanate from the very air itself. It was all calculated to make visitors feel small and grateful. Today, Sarah felt only fury. The doors to the Supreme Chamber were 30 feet tall and made from a single piece of crystallized starlight, harvested from the core of a dying neutron star. They opened silently as Sarah approached, revealing the circular chamber beyond. 12 towering seats arranged in a perfect circle, each one occupied by a representative of the galaxy's most powerful species. High Counselor Veltar of the Ethereal Collective floated in the center, his gaseous form shimmering with what humans had learned to recognize as smug satisfaction. To his right sat General Krexna of the warrior caste Drakmary, his 4 arms crossed over his heavily armored chest. The others, representatives from the crystalline hegemonies, the hive mind collectives, the energy beings of Proxima, all turned their attention to the small human woman who dared to stand before them. Ambassador Chun. Veltar's voice resonated through the chamber like wind through crystal caves. How unexpected. We were not aware that humanity had requested an audience. Sarah stepped forward, her boots clicking against the polished floor. The sound echoed in the vast space, a tiny defiance against the overwhelming presence of beings who could snuff out her son with a thought. "You know exactly why I'm here," she said, her voice steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. 847 of our children. Gone. Taken in the middle of the night from their homes, their schools, their beds. Where are they? A ripple of what might have been amusement passed through the council. Counselor Zoixmet of the crystalline hegemonies clicked his mineral appendages together in a sound like breaking glass. "Children," he said, his voice like grinding stone. "You speak of the juvenile specimens that were collected. They are quite safe, Ambassador. They are being prepared for their new roles in galactic society." The words hit Sarah like physical blows. Specimens. Collected. She had known, on some level, what had happened. The reports from Earth had been clear enough. Advanced ships appearing in the night sky, beams of light, children simply vanishing from their rooms while their parents slept in unnatural slumber. But, hearing it confirmed, hearing these beings speak of human children like laboratory animals, ignited something primal in her chest. "Prepared?" she repeated, taking another step forward. "Prepared for what?" High Counselor Veltar's form shifted, taking on a more solid appearance as he focused his attention on her. "Ambassador, you must understand. Humanity is new to the galactic community. Young, inexperienced. Your species shows certain promising traits, but you lack the wisdom that comes with millennia of civilized existence. The children will be educated, shaped, molded into proper galactic citizens. They will return to your world in time, but as bridges between humanity and the greater universe." "You're talking about brainwashing," Sarah said flatly. "You're talking about stealing our children and turning them into something else." General Krexna leaned forward, his predatory eyes gleaming. "You speak as if you have a choice in the matter, human. Your species was granted membership in this council as a courtesy, nothing more. You have no ships that can challenge us, no weapons that can harm us, no allies who would risk our displeasure to defend you. You will accept this gift we offer and be grateful." The other council members nodded or made sounds of agreement. This was clearly not their first conversation about humanity's place in the galactic order. Sarah realized with growing horror that this had been planned from the beginning. The careful integration period, the technology sharing agreements, the cultural exchange programs, all of it had been preparation for this moment. The children will be returned to you in approximately 20 of your years, Counselor Veltar continued. They will retain their essential humanity, but will have been educated in the proper ways of galactic civilization. They will help guide your species away from the primitive violence and chaos that currently defines your world. Consider it an investment in humanity's future. Sarah's hands clenched into fists at her sides. 20 years? You're talking about stealing 20 years of their lives. Their childhoods, their families, their chance to grow up as human beings. They will grow up as something far better, ZYXmet interjected. The primitive emotional attachments of your species serve no purpose in a civilized galaxy. The children will learn to think clearly, to prioritize logic and the greater good over selfish desires. They will thank us in time. The chamber fell silent except for the soft humming of the crystalline walls. Sarah looked around the circle of alien faces, seeing nothing but cold certainty. These beings truly believed they were doing humanity a favor. They saw human emotional bonds, love, family, attachment, as flaws to be corrected rather than treasures to be protected. There's something you should know about humans, Sarah said quietly, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space. Something your research apparently missed. Oh, Veltar's tone was mildly curious, like a scientist observing an interesting specimen. We have a saying on Earth, hell hath no fury like a parent's love. You just declared war on every mother and father on my world, every grandparent, every aunt and uncle, every sibling. You've attacked the one thing that humans will die to protect. General Krexnal laughed, a sound like grinding metal. And what will your primitive species do? Send your chemical rockets to chase our ships? Fire your crude projectile weapons at our shields? Your entire military could not scratch the paint on a single council vessel. Sarah smiled, and something in that expression made several council members shift uncomfortably in their seats. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator who had just scented prey. You're right, she said. We can't fight you. Not directly. Not yet. But you've made one critical error. And what is that? Veltar asked, his gaseous form flickering with what might have been uncertainty. You think this is the first time humans have faced impossible odds. You think this is the first time we've been outmatched, outnumbered, and outgunned. You study our history, but you don't understand it. Every time, every single time, someone has underestimated humanity's capacity for survival, for adaptation, for sheer bloody-minded refusal to give up, they've regretted it. She turned slowly, addressing the entire council. You want to know what humans do when faced with an enemy they can't defeat? We become something we never were before. We evolve. We adapt. We find a way. Brave words. Counselor Thekmore of the energy beings pulsed. But words will not return your offspring. No, Sarah agreed. Words won't. But here's what will. You've just turned every human being on Earth into your enemy. Every scientist will dedicate their life to finding a way to reach you. Every engineer will work to build ships that can challenge yours. Every soldier will train to fight beings they've never seen. Every parent will sacrifice everything to get their children back. She paused, letting the silence stretch. And the thing about humans? We don't fight alone. We're pack hunters, social creatures. When one of us is threatened, all of us respond. You didn't just take 847 children. You took the children of humanity itself. The council members exchanged glances, but their confidence remained unshaken. After all, what could one primitive species do against the combined might of the galaxy? Sarah reached into her jacket and pulled out a small device. Several of the council security systems immediately focused on her, but she held it up so they could all see it clearly. This is a quantum communicator tuned to every human colony and outpost in council space. Right now, every human in the galaxy is hearing this conversation. Every diplomat, every trader, every explorer. They're hearing you admit to kidnapping our children. They're hearing you gloat about it. High Counselor Veltar's form solidified fully, taking on an almost human appearance as his attention sharpened. What are you implying, Ambassador? I'm not implying anything. I'm stating a fact. As of this moment, humanity is withdrawing from all council agreements. Every human ship is returning to human space. Every trade deal is voided. Every cultural exchange is ended. Every piece of human-developed technology that we've shared with council species is being remotely disabled as we speak. The implications hit the council like a physical blow. Humanity might be newcomers to the galactic community, but they had brought with them innovations that had already revolutionized several industries. Their fusion technology was cleaner and more efficient than anything the galaxy had seen. Their computer systems were more intuitive and adaptive. Their medical techniques had saved millions of lives across dozens of species. "You cannot be serious," Zhuaixmet said, his crystal form flashing with anger. "You would cut yourself off from galactic civilization over a handful of juveniles?" A handful. Sarah's voice dropped to a whisper, but somehow every being in the chamber heard it clearly. "Those are our children, our future, our hope, and you just declared them to be specimens for your experimentation." She activated the communicator. "This is Ambassador Chun. The Council has confirmed the abduction of 847 human children. Operation Exodus is now in effect. All human assets are to be withdrawn from Council space immediately. All shared technologies are to be deactivated. All cooperative agreements are hereby terminated." The device crackled as responses came in from across the galaxy. Human voices, tight with anger and determination, confirming the order. Within hours, every human presence in Council space would be gone. "You are making a grave mistake," General Krexna growled, rising from his seat. His forearms spread wide in a gesture of dominance. "You cannot survive without the Council's protection. There are hostile forces in the galaxy that would wipe out your species without a second thought." "Maybe," Sarah said, "but at least we'll face them as humans, not as the broken shells you want to turn our children into." She turned to leave, then paused at the chamber doors. "One more thing. You have 72 hours to return every one of our children, unharmed and unchanged. After that, humanity will consider itself at war with the Galactic Council." "Va?" Veltar's laugh was like the sound of wind through empty spaces. "What war could you possibly wage against us?" Sarah looked back over her shoulder, and her smile was colder than the void between stars. "The kind of war humans have always been best at. The kind we invented. The kind that doesn't end until every last one of our enemies is dead or broken." The chamber doors closed behind her with a soft whisper, leaving the council in stunned silence. Outside, Sarah's hands finally began to shake as the magnitude of what she had just done hit her. She had just declared war on behalf of her entire species against an enemy that could destroy Earth with a casual thought. But as she walked through the corridors toward her ship, she felt no regret, only determination. The Galactic Council had made the same mistake that every enemy of humanity had made throughout history. They had assumed that technological superiority meant inevitable victory. They had forgotten that humans had spent their entire existence as the weaker species, fighting against stronger predators, harsher environments, and impossible odds. And somehow, humans had always found a way to win. Her communicator buzzed with an incoming message from Earth. It was from Admiral Marcus Webb, head of Earth's newly formed Deep Space Command. "Ambassador, this is Admiral Webb. The President has authorized Operation Pandora. We're dusting off some very old plans. How long can you keep the Council distracted?" Sarah smiled grimly. "As long as you need, Admiral. As long as you need." Behind her, the Galactic Council was still debating whether the primitive humans would actually dare to follow through on their threats. They would learn soon enough that when it came to protecting their children, humans would dare anything. The war for humanity's future was about to begin, and the galaxy had no idea what it had just awakened. Dr. Elena Vasquez pressed her palm against the biometric scanner and watched as the massive blast doors began to slide open. The underground facility stretched into darkness beyond, filled with the hum of machinery that had been silent for nearly 2 decades. Above her head, warning signs in 17 different languages all said the same thing. "Authorized personnel only. Pandora Project. Level Omega clearance required." "Welcome to the most classified facility on Earth," Admiral Webb said as he stepped up beside her. "Officially, this place doesn't exist. Unofficially, it's where we keep humanity's biggest secrets." Elena adjusted her lab coat and stepped through the doorway. The corridor beyond was lined with observation windows that looked into laboratories and testing chambers. Most were dark, but a few showed signs of recent activity. White-coated scientists hurried between stations, their faces grim with purpose. How many people know about this place? Elena asked as they walked deeper into the facility. Before today, maybe 50 people on the entire planet. Now, Webb's expression was grave. Everyone who needs to know. The president activated the deepest black protocols 12 hours ago. Every government on Earth is being briefed on Pandora as we speak. They paused at a junction where the corridor split into 3 directions. To the left, Elena could see massive fabrication bays where robotic arms assembled components she didn't recognize. To the right, she glimpsed what looked like testing chambers with blast-resistant walls. Straight ahead, the corridor continued into deeper darkness. What exactly is the Pandora Project? Elena asked, though part of her already suspected the answer. Admiral Webb's smile was cold. Insurance. The kind of insurance that no sane government ever wants to use, but that every smart government prepares in advance. He gestured to the left corridor. We'll start with the fabrication bays. You need to understand what we're building before you can help us improve it. As they walked, Webb began to explain. When humanity first detected signs of the Galactic Council 25 years ago, our governments faced a dilemma. First contact with an advanced alien civilization could go one of 2 ways: peaceful cooperation or total domination. The optimists prepared for the first scenario. We prepared for the second. The fabrication bay was enormous, stretching for nearly a quarter mile in both directions. Hundreds of robotic assembly lines worked with inhuman precision, building components that looked like nothing Elena had ever seen before. The design aesthetic was distinctly human, but the technology was far beyond anything in the public sphere. Reverse-engineered council tech? Elena asked, watching as a robot carefully installed what looked like a miniaturized fusion reactor into a device the size of a coffee table. Better, Webb said with satisfaction. We've had 25 years to study every piece of technology the council shared with us. Every cultural exchange included intelligence gathering. Every trade agreement gave us access to their systems. Every diplomatic meeting was an opportunity to learn. He led her to an observation deck overlooking the main assembly floor. Below them, the robots were building what Elena now recognized as weapons. Not crude human weapons, but sleek, elegant instruments of destruction that incorporated principles of physics that humanity had only recently begun to understand. The council made a fundamental error, Webb continued. They assumed that because we appeared primitive, we were stupid. They shared technology with us gradually, thinking they could control the pace of our advancement. They never realized that human intelligence isn't measured by our current technology level. It's measured by our ability to learn, adapt, and improve. A new voice joined the conversation. Admiral Webb is being modest. The real breakthrough came when we realized that council technology isn't actually superior to human innovation. It's just different. Elena turned to see a woman in her 50s approaching, wearing the insignia of a chief scientist. Her hair was streaked with premature gray, and her eyes held the kind of exhaustion that came from years of working on impossible problems. Dr. Elena Vasquez, meet Dr. Sarah Kim, Chief of Advanced Weapons Development, Webb said. Sarah's been in charge of the Pandora Project since its inception. Dr. Kim extended her hand. 25 years we've been preparing for this day. 25 years of research, development, and planning. I just wish it hadn't come to this. What exactly are we looking at down there? Elena asked, gesturing to the assembly floor. Dr. Kim activated a holographic display that showed a detailed schematic of one of the devices being built below. We call them quantum disruptors. The council's shields and hull materials are designed to resist kinetic and energy attacks. They've spent millennia perfecting defenses against conventional weapons, but they never considered attacks that operate on a quantum level. The schematic rotated, showing the device's internal structure. Elena recognized some of the components: quantum processors, field generators, crystal matrices, but the overall design was unlike anything she had studied. How does it work? She asked. Quantum entanglement, Dr. Kim explained. Every particle in the universe has a quantum signature. These disruptors can identify and target specific signatures, then introduce cascading quantum instabilities. In simple terms, they can make matter forget how to hold itself together. Elena stared at the schematic in horror and fascination. You're talking about weapons that can destabilize matter at the subatomic level. The potential for complete annihilation, Dr. Kim finished. Yes, we're very aware of the implications. That's why the Pandora Project has been buried so deep that most world governments didn't know it existed until today. Admiral Webb led them deeper into the facility, past laboratories where scientists in hazmat suits worked with materials that glowed with their own inner light. The disruptors are just the beginning. Show her the ships, Sarah. They took an elevator that descended for what felt like minutes. When the doors opened, Elena stepped out into a cavern so vast that she couldn't see the far walls. The space was filled with ships unlike anything she had ever imagined. They were sleek and predatory, built from materials that seemed to absorb light. Their design was clearly human in origin. There was something unmistakably familiar about their proportions and angles, but they incorporated technology that made them look like creatures from a nightmare. "We call them ghost ships," Dr. Kim said proudly. "Full quantum stealth capability, self-repairing hull materials, and powered by controlled quantum singularities. Each one carries enough firepower to level a continent, and they're completely invisible to Council sensors." Elena walked closer to the nearest ship, her scientific mind racing as she examined its construction. The hull appeared to be made from some kind of adaptive metal that shifted and flowed like liquid while maintaining its structural integrity. "How many?" she asked. "Currently, 12 operational, with 8 more in final testing," Admiral Webb replied. "Not enough to fight a full-scale war against the Council, but enough to make them very, very sorry they messed with our children." "But you need me to help build more," Elena said, understanding dawning. "Not exactly," Dr. Kim said. "We need you to help us build something else. Something the Council has never seen before and won't know how to defend against." They walked to a secure area where a single ship sat in isolation. This one was different from the others, smaller, more compact, and covered in sensor arrays and communications equipment. "A reconnaissance vessel?" Elena said. "Close," Admiral Webb said. "It's a delivery system. We've discovered something interesting about Council psychology through our years of observation. They have a fundamental weakness that stems from their superiority complex." Dr. Kim activated another holographic display, this one showing star charts and deployment patterns. The Council controls approximately 40% of the galaxy's habitable systems. They maintain their power through a network of automated defense platforms, patrol fleets, and monitoring stations. But because they've never faced a serious threat to their authority, their security has become complacent. Elena studied the display. "You're planning to infiltrate Council space." "We're planning to do more than that," Admiral Webb said grimly. "We're going to introduce them to a concept they thought they had eliminated from a galaxy: asymmetric warfare." The holographic display changed to show detailed schematics of small, disc-shaped devices. Elena recognized the quantum disruption technology from the larger weapons, but these devices were different, designed for stealth and autonomous operation. "Quantum mines," Dr. Kim explained. "Each one is about the size of a dinner plate and completely undetectable by Council sensors. They can remain dormant for years, decades, or even centuries. And when activated, they can destabilize the quantum structure of anything within a 10-kilometer radius." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "You're talking about turning every Council facility into a potential target. Their shipyards, their defense platforms, their population centers, their entire civilization," Admiral Webb finished. "We've spent 25 years studying the Council's weaknesses, and we've found the big one. They've become dependent on technology they no longer fully understand. Most of their advanced systems are maintained by artificial intelligences that were created thousands of years ago. The beings who built those AIs are long dead, and their descendants have forgotten how to truly innovate." Dr. Kim gestured to the assembly areas around them. "Humanity's advantage isn't our technology, it's our adaptability. When faced with a problem, we don't just try to overwhelm it with superior force. We find new ways to think about the problem. We innovate. We improvise. We cheat. And right now," Admiral Webb added, "we're preparing to cheat on a galactic scale." Elena walked around the reconnaissance ship, her mind processing the implications of what she was seeing. "How long before the first deployment?" 72 hours, Dr. Kim said. "Just enough time to honor Ambassador Chen's ultimatum. If the Council returns our children unharmed, the mines never get activated. If they don't," she shrugged, "you'll turn their entire civilization into a hostage situation," Elena realized. "Exactly," Admiral Webb said. The Council thinks they can threaten humanity because they believe they're untouchable. We're going to teach them that nobody is untouchable. Every Council facility, every ship, every important installation will have our minds nearby. Not close enough to detect, but close enough to destroy everything they care about. Elena was quiet for a long moment, absorbing the magnitude of what humanity was preparing to do. Finally, she looked up at the two scientists who had devoted their careers to preparing for this moment. What do you need me to do? Doktor, kim similet grimli. Help us make sure the quantum signatures are stable across galactic distances. Your work on quantum field manipulation is exactly what we need to ensure the minds can be activated simultaneously across thousands of light years. You're asking me to help build a weapon that could destroy entire star systems, Elena said. I'm asking you to help save 847 human children, Admiral Webb replied, and to make sure that no alien species ever again thinks they can threaten humanity with impunity. Elena nodded slowly. She thought of her own daughter, safe at home on Earth, and tried to imagine how she would feel if alien beings had taken her in the night. The rage and desperation she would feel. The lengths she would go to get her child back. When do we start? She asked. Right now, Dr. Kim said. The Council has 68 hours left to return our children. After that, they're going to learn why humans spent millions of years as apex predators. They're going to discover that when you threaten our young, we don't just fight back. We become something our enemies never expected. As Elena followed them deeper into the facility, she couldn't shake the feeling that humanity was about to cross a line they could never uncross. The weapons they were building weren't just designed to win a war. They were designed to end one so decisively that no one would ever dare to threaten humanity again. The Council had made the mistake of thinking that humans were just another species to be managed and controlled. They were about to learn that humans were something far more dangerous. A species that had spent its entire evolutionary history turning disadvantages into advantages, weaknesses into strengths, and impossible odds into inevitable victories. The 72-hour countdown had begun, and humanity was preparing to show the galaxy exactly what it meant to wake a sleeping giant. Captain Maria Santos gripped the armrests of her command chair as the silent thunder dropped out of quantum slip space at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Around her, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, their movements precise and economical. No one spoke unnecessarily. Every member of her crew understood that they were about to commit an act that would either save humanity's children or doom their species to extinction. Stealth systems online, reported Lieutenant Commander Jackson from the tactical station. Quantum signature minimale. We're effectively invisible. Maria nodded, studying the tactical display that showed the Council facility ahead of them. The Kepler 442 system had been one of humanity's earliest deep space colonies, established just 8 years after first contact with the Council. Now it served as a cultural integration center, where young beings from newly contacted species learned to become proper galactic citizens. It was where 847 human children were being held prisoner. Sensor sweep, Mr. Chun, Maria ordered. I want to know everything about that facility's defenses. The young sensor officer's fingers danced across his console. Reading standard Council defensive grid. 6 orbital platforms with Class 7 particle beam arrays. 2 patrol squadrons of Drakmary interceptors on routine patrol patterns. The facility itself has standard energy shields and what appears to be a full complement of automated defense systems, all of which are designed to detect and engage conventional threats, added Commander Sarah Park, Maria's first officer. The question is whether they'll detect our delivery systems. Maria turned her attention to the specialized stations that had been added to the bridge for this mission. 3 technicians in civilian clothes worked at consoles that looked nothing like standard naval equipment. Each mine will remain dormant until activated by the quantum cascade signal from Earth. How long until they're in position? Maria asked. Approximately 6 hours for full deployment, Dr. Reeves replied. The mines need to be placed at precise coordinates to ensure maximum coverage of the facility while remaining undetectable. Maria nodded and activated her communication system. This is Captain Santos to all ships. Report status. The responses came in quickly from across the Kepler 442 system. 12 ghost ships had entered the system through different entry points, each carrying similar payloads. Other ships were scattered across Council space, approaching targets that represented the heart of galactic civilization. Shipyards, research facilities, government centers, trade hubs, every location that mattered to the Council's power structure. All ships report ready, Captain, Commander Park said quietly. The deployment network is in position. Maria took a deep breath. In 6 hours, humanity would have the ability to cripple the Galactic Council's infrastructure with the push of a button. Every important facility in Council space would be vulnerable to instantaneous destruction. The Council would find themselves in the same position they had put humanity in, helpless to protect what mattered most to them. Begin deployment, Maria ordered. The ship shuddered slightly as the first wave of delivery drones launched from the Silent Thunder's modified cargo base. Each drone was no larger than a human fist, its hull composed of materials that absorbed rather than reflected sensor scans. They moved through space with tiny chemical thrusters that produced no detectable energy signature. On the main screen, Maria watched as the drones spread out across the system, each one carrying its deadly cargo toward predetermined coordinates. The Council facility continued its routine operations, completely unaware that instruments of its potential destruction were approaching from all directions. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Jackson said quietly, receiving a message from Admiral Webb. Put it through, Maria ordered. The Admiral's voice filled the bridge, transmitted through quantum communication channels that the Council couldn't intercept. All ships, be advised that the Council has officially rejected humanity's ultimatum. Ambassador Chen reports that High Counselor Veltar stated, and I quote, "Humanity will learn to accept its place in the galactic order, or humanity will learn what it means to defy the Council." The children remained in custody. A cold silence fell over the bridge. Every person present had known this moment would come, but hearing it confirmed still sent a chill through the crew. The President has authorized Phase 2, Admiral Webb continued. All ships are to complete deployment and await final authorization. Operation Pandora is now active. Maria closed her eyes for a moment. Phase 2 meant that humanity was crossing the point of no return. Once the mines were in position and activated, there would be no taking back what they had done. The galaxy would never be the same. Dr. Reeves, she said, opening her eyes. How long until all mines are in position? 4 hours and 37 minutes, Captain. Maria nodded and settled back in her command chair. Now came the hardest part, waiting. Waiting while 847 human children remained prisoners of beings who saw them as specimens to be reprogrammed. Waiting while humanity prepared to unleash weapons that could destabilize the quantum structure of matter itself. 2 hours later, the Council made their next move. Captain, I'm detecting massive energy buildups across the system, Lieutenant Commander Jackson reported, his voice tight with tension. The Council fleet is mobilizing. The main screen showed new contacts appearing throughout the Kepler 442 system. Dozens of Council ships, their hulls gleaming with advanced armor and bristling with weapons that could vaporize anything humanity had previously built. They're not heading for us, Commander Park observed. They're taking positions around the facility. Maria studied the tactical display. The Council ships were indeed forming a protective barrier around the Cultural Integration Center. But their positioning suggested something else entirely. Dr. Reeves, are they trying to block our minds? Maria asked. The quantum specialists check her readings. No, Captain. The mines are too small and too stealthy. They couldn't detect them, even if they knew where to look. Then what are they doing? Commander Park wondered aloud. The answer came from an unexpected source. The facility's main communication array activated, broadcasting on a frequency that every human ship in the system would receive. Attention, human vessels, came a voice that Maria recognized from intelligence briefings. It was General Krexna of the Drakmari warrior caste. You have been detected. Surrender immediately, or face the consequences. How did they? Lieutenant Commander Jackson began, but Maria cut him off with a raised hand. They're bluffing, she said confidently. If they had actually detected us, they would have already opened fire. This is psychological warfare. But even as she spoke, Maria felt a nagging doubt. The Council hadn't survived for 50,000 years by being careless or stupid. If they were making this move, they had a reason. The answer came 5 minutes later when every sensor on the bridge began screaming warnings. Energy spike, Jackson shouted. Massive energy spike from the facility. On the main screen, the Cultural Integration Center began to glow with an inner light. Energy patterns that defied human understanding pulsed across its surface, and space around the facility began to shimmer like heat waves. "What are they doing?" Commander Park asked. Dr. Reeves frantically worked at her console, trying to interpret readings that shouldn't have been possible. "Captain, they're generating some kind of quantum field. It's unlike anything in our databases." The field expanded rapidly, washing over the positions where Maria knew their minds had been placed. As it touched each location, something impossible happened. The quantum signatures of the minds began to change. "They're destabilizing the mind payloads," Dr. Reeves shouted. "The quantum fields are cascading, but not in the way we programmed." Maria watched in horror as the carefully planned deployment began to unravel. Instead of remaining dormant until activated, the minds were beginning to react to the Council's quantum field. But they weren't exploding, they were doing something else entirely. "Captain, I'm reading quantum tunneling effects at multiple coordinates," Jackson reported. "It's like space itself is opening up." The shimmer around the facility intensified, and suddenly, Maria understood what the Council was doing. They weren't trying to destroy the minds, they were using them. "They knew," she whispered. "They knew we were here. They knew about the minds. They're using our own weapons to..." The quantum field reached critical resonance, and space around the facility tore open like fabric. Through the tears, Maria could see other locations, other systems, other worlds. The Council had turned humanity's quantum minds into a transportation network. "My God," Dr. Reeves breathed. "They're opening quantum gateways. They can use our mind positions to teleport their forces anywhere they want." As if to confirm her words, Council ships began emerging from the quantum tiers. Not just local patrol vessels, but massive dreadnoughts and battle stations that had been positioned throughout Council space. Within minutes, the Kepler 442 system was filled with more firepower than most species saw in their entire existence. "All human ships, this is Admiral Webb," came the transmission from Earth. "Abort deployment immediately. Repeat, abort deployment. The Council has compromised our quantum network." But it was too late. The quantum field was already stabilizing, creating permanent gateways that the Council could use to move forces instantaneously across the galaxy. Humanity's most advanced weapons had been turned against them with contemptuous ease. "Captain," Commander Park said quietly, "what are your orders?" Maria stared at the impossible sight on her main screen. The Council hadn't just detected humanity's plan. They had been prepared for it. They had been waiting for humanity to deploy exactly this type of weapon, because they had encountered it before. "They've done this before," she realized aloud. "Other species have tried quantum warfare against the Council. That's why they were ready for it." A new voice filled the bridge, transmitted on all human frequencies simultaneously. It was High Counselor Veltar, his tone carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Humans of the vessels you call ghost ships," his voice resonated through the bridge. "You have provided us with a valuable demonstration of your species' ingenuity. We are impressed. Your quantum mind technology shows promise, though it is hardly original. The Altarians developed similar weapons approximately 15,000 years ago. Like you, they believe they could threaten the Council with devices we could not detect or counter." The transmission continued, and Maria could hear the smug satisfaction in the alien's voice. The Altarians no longer exist as a species. They became too dangerous to allow continued independence, so they were absorbed into our collective. Their knowledge became our knowledge. Their technology became our technology. Their children became our citizens. Maria's blood ran cold as the implications hit her. "Captain," Dr. Reeves whispered, "if they have quantum tunneling technology, they can reach Earth directly. Our home system defenses won't stop them. We are prepared to offer humanity the same choice we offered the Altarians," Veltar continued. "Submit to full integration into galactic civilization, accept our guidance in all matters, and surrender all claims to independence. Do this, and your species will be preserved as valued members of the galactic community." The quantum gateways stabilized completely, and Council ships began pouring through from across the galaxy. Maria watched as enough firepower to sterilize entire solar systems assembled around the facility where human children were being held prisoner. "Refuse," Veltar concluded, "and humanity will join the Altarians in extinction. You have demonstrated that your species possesses dangerous capabilities. We cannot allow such capabilities to exist outside our control. Choose quickly, humans. Our patience is not infinite." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. In the space of an hour, humanity had gone from having the Council at their mercy to facing the complete annihilation of their species. "Captain," Commander Park said quietly. "Orders?" Maria looked around the bridge at her crew. Scientists, engineers, soldiers who had volunteered for a mission they knew might be their last. They had believed they were saving their children. Instead, they had led their entire species into a trap that had been waiting for them for 15,000 years. But, as she looked at their faces, Maria saw something that gave her hope. She didn't see defeat. She didn't see surrender. She saw the same stubborn determination that had carried humanity through every crisis in their history. "Signal all ships," she said quietly. "Prepare for combat operations." "Captain," Dr. Reeves looked shocked. "We can't fight that fleet. They outnumber us 1,000 to 1. "No," Maria agreed. "We can't fight them directly. But we're not going to surrender either. Signal Admiral Webb. Tell him that the Ghost Fleet is implementing Protocol 7. Commander Park's eyes widened. Protocol 7 was theoretical, a contingency plan that had never been tested because it was considered too dangerous even by the standards of the Pandora Project. "Captain, Protocol 7 could save humanity's children and preserve our independence," Maria finished. "Or it could destroy everything within 10 light years of our current position. But at least we'll go down fighting." She activated the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, this is the captain. The Council has rejected our ultimatum and is demanding humanity's complete surrender. They believe they have us trapped. They're about to learn why that was a mistake." Maria looked at the massive Council fleet surrounding them, knowing that her next decision would determine the fate of not just her crew, but potentially her entire species. "The Council thinks they know how humans fight because they've encountered quantum weapons before," she said grimly. "They're about to discover that the weapons weren't the dangerous part. We were." Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the deepest level of the Pandora facility, surrounded by technology that made her previous work look like stone tools. The chamber was vast and circular, its walls lined with quantum field generators that hummed with barely contained energy. At the center of the room, a single device no larger than a briefcase sat on a pedestal, connected to the facility's main power grid by cables as thick as her arm. "Are you absolutely certain about this, Elena?" Admiral Webb asked, his voice carrying the weight of the decision they were about to make. "Once we activate Protocol 7, there's no going back." Elena looked at the device, officially designated as the Quantum Cascade Amplifier, though the scientist who built it simply called it the reset button. Her hands trembled slightly as she ran through the calculations one more time. The mathematics were elegant in their simplicity and terrifying in their implications. "The quantum field will propagate at roughly the speed of light," she said, her voice steady despite her fear. "It will reach the Kepler 442 system in approximately 4 hours. Everything within a 10 light-year radius will be affected." "Define affected," said President Chun, who had arrived at the facility an hour ago along with the leaders of every major world government. The weight of humanity's future rested on the decision they were about to make. Dr. Kim activated a holographic display that showed the predicted effects of the device. "The amplifier will create a cascading quantum instability that affects all matter on a subatomic level. In simple terms, it will cause every atom in the affected area to forget its current quantum state and revert to a more stable configuration." "Which means what, exactly?" demanded General Morrison, the head of Earth's military forces. "It means," Elena said quietly, "that every piece of technology in that region of space will stop working. Not just stop working, become impossible to repair. The quantum matrices that power Council ships, their weapons, their shields, even their basic life support systems, all of it will become inert matter." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. President Chun was the first to speak. "You're talking about creating a technological dead zone. Nothing more advanced than basic chemistry will function." "Exactly," Dr. Kim confirmed. "The Council fleet, the facility where our children are being held, even our own ships, everything will be reduced to the technological level of roughly the early industrial age. No quantum effects, no advanced materials, no energy weapons." Admiral Webb paced around the device, his expression grim. "And then what?" "Our people are still outnumbered 1,000 to 1. "But not outgunned," Elena replied. "This is where humanity's history becomes an advantage. We're the only species in the galaxy that has maintained knowledge of pre-quantum warfare. Every other civilization became dependent on advanced technology millions of years ago. They've forgotten how to fight with anything else. She activated another holographic display, this one showing personnel files from the Ghost Fleet. Captain Santos was a Marine before she joined the Space Force. She trained in small unit tactics, urban warfare, and asymmetric combat. Lieutenant Commander Jackson served in the Special Forces. Dr. Reeves may be a quantum physicist, but she also spent 2 years in the Amazon studying traditional metallurgy and chemistry. You're saying our people know how to fight at an industrial technology level, and the Council forces don't, President Chan said, understanding dawning in his voice. More than that, Dr. Kim added, our ships were designed with Protocol 7 in mind. They carry supplies and equipment that will still function after the quantum cascade. Projectile weapons, chemical explosives, basic electronic systems that don't rely on quantum effects. The Council ships will be carrying nothing but useless technology. General Morrison leaned forward, studying the tactical projections. How long will the effect last? Permanently, Elena said. The quantum cascade is irreversible. That region of space will never again support advanced technology. But she paused, checking her calculations one more time. There's something else. Something we discovered during the final tests. Admiral Webb raised an eyebrow. What kind of something? Elena called up a new set of equations that made the others look simple by comparison. The cascade doesn't just affect technology. It affects all quantum states, including those that govern biological processes and species that have undergone genetic modification. The implications hit everyone simultaneously. Dr. Kim was the first to voice what they were all thinking. The Council species have all been genetically modified over thousands of years. Enhanced intelligence, extended lifespans, resistance to disease. All of it depends on quantum biological processes. You're saying the cascade will kill them? President Chen asked. Not kill, Elena corrected. Revert. They'll lose all their enhancements and return to their original biological states. They'll still be alive, but they'll be baseline versions of their species. No enhanced intelligence, no extended lifespans, no special abilities. General Morrison smiled grimly. So not only will they lose their technological advantage, they'll lose their biological advantages as well. While humans will be unaffected, Admiral Webb realized, we're still a baseline species. We haven't undergone any quantum-level genetic modifications. Elena nodded. Our people will retain all their natural abilities, while the Council forces will be reduced to their most primitive state. In biological terms, it will be like sending modern humans to fight Neanderthals. President Chen stood quietly for a long moment, staring at the device that could change the fate of the galaxy. Finally, he looked up at the assembled group. What about our children? Will they be safe? The facility where they're being held is designed to house biological entities, Dr. Kim assured him. The structure itself will survive the cascade, and the life support systems will continue to function at a basic level. The children will be safe, but the Council forces guarding them won't be in any condition to resist rescue, Admiral Webb added. Elena checked her chronometer. Captain Santos and the Ghost Fleet are holding position, waiting for our signal. If we activate Protocol 7 now, they'll have approximately 4 hours to prepare for the cascade. 4 hours to get ready for the kind of fight humanity is uniquely suited to win. President Chen looked around the room at the other world leaders. This is the decision point. Once we do this, we'll have committed humanity to a path that changes us forever. We won't just be another member species of the galactic community. We'll be the species that proved advanced civilizations could be brought down by sufficiently motivated primitives. They took our children, said Chancellor Hoffman of the European Federation. They treated them like specimens for experimentation. I say we show them what happens when you threaten a species that evolved from pack hunters. Agreed, said Premier Liu of the Asian Confederation. The Council has had 50,000 years to learn wisdom. Instead, they've learned arrogance. It's time someone taught them the difference. One by one, the leaders of Earth's major governments voiced their agreement. The decision was unanimous. Humanity would activate Protocol 7. Elena placed her hand on the control panel of the quantum cascade amplifier. Once I start this sequence, we'll have crossed the point of no return. The galaxy will never be the same. Good, Admiral Webb said firmly. It's time the galaxy learned what it means to threaten humanity's young. Elena began the activation sequence. Around the chamber, The quantum field generators began to resonate with harmonic frequencies that human ears couldn't hear, but human bones could feel. The device on the pedestal started to glow with an inner light that seemed to bend space around it. Cascade initiation in 60 seconds, Elena announced. She opened a communication channel to Captain Santos and the Ghost Fleet. Captain, this is Dr. Vasquez. Protocol 7 is active. You have approximately 4 hours until effect propagation reaches your position. Understood, Doctor, came Captain Santos's voice across the quantum communicator. We'll be ready. Elena watched the countdown timer on her display. 30 seconds. 20. 10. As the timer reached 0, she pressed the final activation control. The quantum cascade amplifier released its payload, a wave of quantum instability that would travel outward at the speed of light, creating an expanding sphere of technological death. Within that sphere, the laws of physics would remain the same, but the quantum effects that made advanced technology possible would cease to function. Cascade initiated, Elena announced. Wave propagation confirmed. Estimated time to target, 4 hours, 17 minutes. Admiral Webb activated his communication system. All Ghost Fleet vessels, this is Admiral Webb. You are hereby authorized to implement full combat Protocol 7. Show the Council what humans are capable of when we stop playing by their rules. For light years away, Captain Santos received the transmission and smiled grimly. Around her, the bridge crew began their final preparations for a battle unlike any that had been fought in the galaxy for millions of years. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced over the ship's communication system, in 4 hours, we're going to fight a battle that will be decided by bullets, bombs, and blades instead of energy weapons and quantum shields. We're going to fight the kind of battle that humans have been perfecting for thousands of years. She stood from her command chair and looked around the bridge at her crew. The Council thinks they've trapped us. They think their superior technology makes them invincible. In 4 hours, they're going to learn that when you reduce warfare to its most basic level, nobody is better at it than humans. Lieutenant Commander Jackson looked up from his tactical console. Captain, what about the other Council fleets throughout the galaxy? They'll still have their full capabilities. Captain Santos's smile was predatory. Let them come. After we finish here, the entire galaxy will know what happened in the Kepler 442 system. Every species in Council space will learn that there's now a region where their precious technology doesn't work. They'll learn that humans can create places where their advantages mean nothing. She returned to her command chair and activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is the captain. In 4 hours, we're going to save our children and teach the galaxy a lesson it will never forget. We're going to show them that humans don't need quantum weapons or energy shields to be the most dangerous predators in the universe. The countdown to humanity's revolution had begun, and the galaxy was about to discover that sometimes the most primitive weapons in the right hand were more dangerous than any advanced technology. The Council had awakened something they thought they had tamed: humanity's capacity for warfare. They were about to learn that when humans fought for their children, they didn't just fight to win. They fought to ensure their enemies would never threaten them again. Captain Maria Santos watched the countdown timer reach 0 and felt the universe change around her. The quantum cascade wave passed through the silent thunder like a whisper, and suddenly, every advanced system on the ship simply stopped. The main view screen flickered and died. The quantum engines fell silent. The energy weapons powered down. Around the bridge, her crew worked frantically at backup systems that had been specifically designed to function without quantum effects. Backup power online, reported Chief Engineer Kowalski over the ship's basic communication system. Switching to pre-quantum navigation and targeting systems. Confirmed, replied Lieutenant Commander Jackson, now working at a mechanical console that looked like it belonged in a museum. I have visual contact with the Council fleet through the backup optical sensors. Maria smiled grimly as she watched the tactical display update. The massive Council dreadnoughts that had seemed so imposing moments ago were now drifting helplessly through space. Their quantum engines had failed. Their energy weapons were inert. Their advanced shields had collapsed. Signal from the facility, reported Communications Officer Martinez, working at a radio system that transmitted through electromagnetic waves instead of quantum channels. The Council garrison is requesting assistance. Their life support systems have failed, and their personnel are experiencing difficulties. Maria understood what difficulties meant. The Council species had spent millennia modifying themselves with quantum-enhanced genetics. Now, cut off from those enhancements, they were reverting to their baseline biological states. Enhanced intelligence was becoming ordinary intelligence. Extended lifespans were collapsing back to normal limits. Augmented physical abilities were failing. Status on our deployment teams? Maria asked. Shuttles Alpha through Delta have successfully launched, Jackson reported. All teams are equipped with pre-quantum gear and are approaching their assigned entry points. Through the backup optical viewers, Maria could see the shuttles moving toward the Cultural Integration Center. Unlike the sleek, energy-based craft the Council used, these were simple mechanical vehicles powered by chemical rockets and armed with projectile weapons that worked regardless of quantum states. Captain, came a voice over the radio from Shuttle Alpha. It was Major Williams, the Marine officer leading the assault team. We're approaching the facility. No resistance detected. Repeat, no resistance. The Council defenders appear to be incapacitated. Maria wasn't surprised. The facility's garrison consisted primarily of ethereal collective beings, gaseous entities whose consciousness depended entirely on quantum field manipulation. Without their quantum enhancements, they had effectively ceased to exist as thinking beings. Proceed with the extraction, Major, Maria ordered. Priority is the safety of our children. Roger that, Captain. Beginning infiltration now. Maria turned her attention to the larger tactical situation. Throughout the system, the 12 ships of the Ghost Fleet were engaging the powerless Council vessels. But engaging was hardly the right word for what was happening. Captain, Jackson said, his voice filled with something between awe and horror. The Council ships aren't fighting back. They can't fight back. Their crews are either unconscious or dying. Maria watched as the Phantom Strike approached one of the massive Council dreadnoughts. The alien vessel, which had been capable of destroying entire fleets just hours ago, now drifted helplessly as human Marines boarded it through airlocks that could no longer resist intrusion. Signal from Captain Rodriguez on the Ghost Walker, Martinez reported. They've secured the command ship. The Council Admiral, General Krexna, is alive but appears to have lost most of his enhanced capabilities. Captain Rodriguez is requesting permission to take prisoners. Maria considered for a moment. The rules of warfare had changed so completely in the past few hours that there were no precedents for this situation. She was making decisions that would affect the entire future relationship between humanity and the rest of the galaxy. Granted, she said finally, but secure containment only. We're not monsters. Her decision was interrupted by an urgent transmission from Major Williams. Captain, we've reached the children. They're alive and unharmed, but his voice trailed off. What is it, Major? Captain, these kids, they've been through some kind of conditioning process. They don't recognize us as human. They think we're primitives who've come to harm them. Maria felt ice form in her stomach. The worst fears about what the Council had been doing to human children were being confirmed. Are they physically unharmed? Yes, ma'am. No signs of physical abuse. But their minds, whatever the Council did to them, it was thorough. They're asking for their enlightened caretakers and saying that humans are a violent, primitive species that needs to be controlled. The rage that filled Maria in that moment was unlike anything she had ever experienced. The Council hadn't just kidnapped human children. They had tried to turn them against their own species. They had attempted to steal not just the children's bodies, but their souls. Major, extract them immediately, she ordered, her voice deadly calm. Use whatever force is necessary to ensure their safety, but get them out of there now. Understood, Captain. Beginning extraction now. Maria opened a communication channel to the entire Ghost Fleet. All vessels, this is Captain Santos. The children have been subjected to psychological conditioning designed to turn them against humanity. This changes our mission parameters. We are no longer simply conducting a rescue operation. We are conducting a liberation. She paused, letting the implications sink in throughout the fleet. The Council thought they could break our children. They thought they could turn our young into weapons against us. They were wrong. Around the system, the one-sided battle continued. Council ships that had been instruments of galactic domination just hours ago were now helpless hulks being systematically captured or destroyed by human forces armed with weapons that would have been considered primitive museum pieces anywhere else in the galaxy. Captain, Jackson reported, we're receiving a transmission from the remaining functional Council ship. It's a surrender offer. Put it through, Maria ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was weak and filled with pain. It was High Counselor Veltar, but he sounded nothing like the arrogant being who had dismissed humanity's ultimatum. Human vessels, this is High Counselor Veltar. I formally surrender all council forces in this system. Please, we require medical assistance. Our people are dying. Maria stared at the communication console for a long moment. The being who had spoken with such contempt about human emotional attachments was now begging for mercy from the species he had tried to dominate. High Counselor, she said finally, you stated that humanity would learn to accept its place in the galactic order. It appears that the lesson has been taught, but to the wrong student. Please, Veltar's voice was barely a whisper. Many of our people are reverting to biological states that cannot survive in this environment. Without quantum life support, they will die. Where you showed mercy to our children? Maria asked coldly. Where you considered their emotional well-being when you stole them from their families? Silence from the council ship. Maria made her decision. We will provide basic medical assistance to prevent unnecessary deaths. But understand this, High Counselor, this system now belongs to humanity. Your ships are forfeit. Your personnel will be treated as prisoners of war until this situation is resolved. You cannot simply claim a star system. The galactic community will never accept. The galactic community, Maria interrupted, will accept whatever we decide they will accept. Because we now possess something that no other species has, the ability to create regions of space where advanced technology simply doesn't work. She let that sink in before continuing. Every species in the galaxy depends on quantum technology for their civilization to function. We've just proven that we can take that away. Permanently. Captain, Major Williams reported, we've successfully extracted all human children from the facility. They're confused and frightened, but they're safe. Requesting permission to destroy the conditioning equipment. Granted, Major. Make sure nothing remains that could be used to harm other children. Maria watched through the optical viewers as explosions began to bloom throughout the council facility. The Marines were systematically destroying every piece of equipment that had been used in the attempted brainwashing of human children. Signal from Admiral Webb, Martinez reported. Priority communication from Earth. Put him through. Admiral Webb's voice filled the bridge with satisfaction and grim determination. Captain Santos, this is Admiral Webb. Congratulations on the successful completion of Phase 1. Be advised that Council fleets throughout the galaxy are mobilizing to respond to the Kepler 442 situation. Understood, Admiral. What are our orders? You are to hold position and prepare for Phase 2. We're about to teach the galaxy exactly what it means to threaten humanity's children. Maria felt a chill run down her spine. If Phase 1 had been this devastating, she couldn't imagine what Phase 2 would entail. Admiral, what exactly is Phase 2? Webb's voice was cold as vacuum when he replied. We're going to demonstrate that the Kepler 442 cascade was not a desperation move. It was a warning. Dr. Vasquez has completed construction of 12 more quantum cascade amplifiers. Each one is currently being transported to a major council population center. The implications hit Maria like a physical blow. Humanity wasn't just planning to rescue their children. They were planning to hold the entire galactic civilization hostage. The Council has 48 hours to meet our new demands, Webb continued. Complete withdrawal from all human claim systems. Formal recognition of human sovereignty, and the establishment of a non-aggression treaty that guarantees this will never happen again. And if they refuse? Maria asked, though she already knew the answer. Then, we introduce the galaxy to a new concept, mutually assured destruction. If the Council wants to play the game of galactic dominance, they're going to learn that humans invented the ultimate version of that game. Maria looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. They had signed up to rescue children. Now, they found themselves at the center of a revolution that would either establish humanity as a major galactic power or result in the destruction of advanced civilization throughout this entire region of the galaxy. Understood, Admiral. We'll hold position and wait for further orders. As the transmission ended, Maria realized that humanity had just crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. They had proven that technological superiority was not the same as invincibility. They had shown the galaxy that sometimes the most primitive weapons in the right hands were more dangerous than any advanced technology. The Council had made the ultimate mistake. They had threatened humanity's children. Now they were about to learn that when humans fought for their young, they didn't just fight to win. They fought to ensure that their enemies would never dare threaten them again. The age of human dominance had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Jackson said quietly, "Signal from the human children. They're asking to speak with you." Maria smiled for the first time in hours. Whatever psychological conditioning the council had attempted, it was beginning to break down now that the children were back among their own kind. "Put them through," she ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was young, frightened, but unmistakably human. "Captain, are you really here to take us home?" "Yes," Maria replied, her voice gentle despite the rage still burning in her heart. "We're here to take you home. All of you." The caretaker said that humans were violent and primitive, that we needed to be protected from our own species. "What do you think now?" Maria asked. There was a pause, and then the child's voice came back, stronger and more certain. "I think they were wrong. I think they were the ones who were primitive." Maria smiled grimly. The council had tried to break humanity's children, but they had failed to understand the most important thing about humans. Their connections to each other ran deeper than any conditioning, stronger than any technology. The children were coming home, and the galaxy would never threaten humanity's young again.